Heavenly Father, we beseech Thee. I kneel before You as a member of this age-old craft, praying to You for guidance as I am on a journey for more light, but more especially light that has been lost, forgotten, or hidden among the ages gone by. The light that connects us with our very meaning and informs us of our purpose. Light locked deep within our past, beyond lips that no longer speak, and paths forgotten, no longer traveled. Aid me in my pursuit, Lord, for historical light. Hey everybody, welcome back to Historical Light, an independent Masonic show focused on the historical events and aspects within Freemasonry. As always, I'm your host, Brother Alex Powers, and I want to thank you guys for joining us for episode number 26. I know we've been a little off lately, but trying to get it back on track, and I appreciate you guys sticking around and still supporting the show. Now, we have a great guest on the show today. You guys are going to love it, and we brought him on to help kind of recap this year's Masonic Con 2018 up in Attleboro, Massachusetts. Had the pleasure of going up there as a speaker this year, so without further ado, we're not going to do any of the other intro today as far as Masonry Today and all that. We're going to jump straight in. Got a great interview and kind of a recap about Masonic Con. I want to fill you guys in on that, and I hope you enjoy. We'll see you afterwards. Back to Historical Light. Very pleased to have on the show today Worshipful Brother Rob Jackson. Thank you so much for being on today, brother. If you don't mind, I'll kick it over to you. We always start off by letting our guests tell a little bit about themselves and kind of introduce themselves.
Thank you, brother. Again, Robert Jackson. I live in Massachusetts. I'm the presiding master of Montgomery Lodge. It's a Paul Revere Lodge founded in 1797. My second year as master and should be ending in the next couple of months. So
wonderful. How was your year in the East gone, brother?
Exhausting.
I'm sure so many can share that feeling with you for sure.
Yeah, so after the first year, I was like, oh, there's so many things I wanted to do differently. I'm sure everybody's felt that way.
That's right. That's right. So you are a two-timer.
And then I get the opportunity. I'm like, oh, great! I'm going to do things differently. I'm really going to attack it. And it's like, oh my God, that was too much.
So, third time's a charm?
No. No. Not unless divorce papers are included, because that would be bad.
I understand that. Well, we always kind of kick off by asking a couple questions to our guests that come on the show. First one, that's going to be, do you have any family history within the craft in both the Freemasonry side itself and or appendant bodies?
I do. Actually, this is one of the things I'm very proud of. Not in the appendant bodies, at least not to my knowledge. But my father, grandfather, and great-grandfather were all members of Scarsdale Lodge 1094 in Scarsdale, New York. My great-grandfather was actually a charter member of that lodge, which is cool. My dad and my grandfather were both past masters, and I think most of my grandfather's family, at least at one point in time or the other, belonged to that lodge. And I know my grandmother was an Eastern Star as well.
Wonderful. Now, with that family history, is that what brought you in to actually make that decision to join yourself? Or what was it that made you decide to make that leap into Freemasonry?
The family history certainly sparked the interest. There's always something there. My dad never talked about it, but I would see things around his office that, he would have, and of course his ring. And but he never really talked about it. When I graduated college, I first got out, I mentioned something to him, and he was like, well, when you're ready, go find a lodge and talk to them, meet them. And this was when I was in Indianapolis at the time. And since then, I'd moved to Massachusetts, started a family, and my oldest was about 2 years old. And I felt I needed something to get back, something to improve myself. And this was like the time of National Treasure, so like that whole deal was going around, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to see what this is about, and so I petitioned to lodge, and my dad didn't even know until I was accepted.
No doubt. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you made the choice to jump in and actually make that leap into Freemasonry. What's kept you around? Why did you decide to stay a Mason?
So this is an interesting question, or an interesting scenario. I got right in line. I did fairly well on my exemplification. I got right in line, but I was traveling a lot for work. And first kid, second kid, I'm gone Monday through Thursday. I get home and I'm like, honey, I'm going to go to lodge. And she's like, no, I don't think so. So, there was that 24-inch gauge trying to, figure out what the priority was and
That's a tough one.
balance things out. And it still is. And that actually happened twice. And then I was brought back in as senior deacon. And I guess that would have been, 5 years ago, and just stuck with it ever since. I did almost step away just because I wasn't real into the fraternal aspect. And listening to the obligations and seeing some of the ritual and started really wondering if I believed in God. And I just wasn't sure if Masonry was for me. And I found a couple brothers and started introducing me to the more philosophical aspect, which I didn't even realize. And that's really what started my educational journey.
Sure. Now that's a pretty profound comment that you just had there. You weren't sure if you believed in God after you joined Masonry. I know there's some guys watching right now like, oh my God. But that right there, that's a journey in itself. I would almost challenge everybody to actually question that, because there's so many people out there just raised in that way of, I believe in God. But do you? Do you believe for yourself, or do you believe because you were told to believe? And how can you believe truly without traveling that path? How can you reach the light if you haven't gone through the darkness? And brother, I commend you for soul seeking in that manner and actually figuring it out for yourself. There's not a lot of people that do that. They just kind of skip over and call it good. And I don't think that equals up. I really don't. So good job.
I'm still kind of figuring it out, and it's still a struggle, and trying to find spirituality and God in my own way, and
sure,
and trying to learn as much as I can. I figured if you're brought up in school, and the thing they always talk to you about is, well, you have to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you're going to learn. Well, why doesn't that apply to everything else in life? Why don't we ask questions about religion and Freemasonry and politics? And that's how we're going to learn.
Yeah, those are the questions that scare people. It's no. You get hushed up really quick on those. But that's a huge factor of it, is that inner seeking, and you can't reach the end if you never travel the path. So no, I'm right there with you. Well, today's episode, we're getting into an awesome topic. It's been another year, and I was in Boston last week. I was up in Attleboro area for Masonic Con 2018. If you might notice, one of the few shows throughout the year that I'm not in a suit, wearing the official Masonic Con shirt. So got Brother Rob on the show today. He was also in attendance, so kind of giving you guys a dual perspective of how it went down. So brother, you live in the area, so they've done this 3 years in a row now. Were you able to make it to the first one?
I did.
Nice.
I think I found out about it on Facebook. Either that, or there's an educational group, Lumen Scienti, which sometimes meets there as well. And I had gone to one of their lectures and Facebook and heard about Masonic Con. I was like, I'm going to go check this out. And man, I was hooked. Not just the swag is cool. There's a lot of cool material, merchandise there that you'll find there that you won't find anywhere else. So found out about it either on Facebook or through some of the groups, and I went, and not just the merchandise. The merchandise is really cool. A lot of unique stuff that you probably just won't see anywhere else. And that's growing, but the lectures, right? The discussions and talking to guys and meeting people. I mean, that's the key. That's what makes Masonic Con for me. That's awesome.
Most definitely. So I didn't know about it the first year. I found out about it last year, the second year they did it, kind of by fluke, I guess. One of the other podcasts had put out the idea of getting all the Masonic podcasts together to do this big group picture. And kind of, kept on me, you got to get out there. We're getting everyone together. Everyone's on. All right, sweet. So drop the money, and I'm like, a few days from leaving, and everyone's like not going. It was just there was just a few guys from TMR that made it up there, but nonetheless, it was an epic experience. Still got a cool picture. Just had an epic time, and it was something that I just don't get here locally on that magnitude. And I've looked forward to it all year long. So this year they actually invited me out as a speaker, and I was just I was stoked about it. I've like I said, been looking forward to it all year long. Kind of my highlight, and it did not let me down. I think this was actually blew last year out of the water, at least for me. What do you think? How did this year go for you, brother?
So it's tough because last year was really special just because I got to meet you. And RJ and John Ruark and these guys that I've looked up to, and I met guys like Angel Millar, right? And just getting some of that knowledge and hearing some of these brothers speak, it was just fantastic. So last year was really really a highlight for me. I like what they're doing with it this year. I think Ezekiel Bates is trying to expand it out for a more diverse area of topics. Which was awesome, but yeah, last year was something special.
Yeah,
hard to top that.
Yeah, no, I agree. So there was a very special thing last year that me and you got to share with a group of other guys. That the whole entirety of it's not to be talked about. It was a personal experience, but it was very cool. Happened after Masonic Con, but yes, that would be hard to top. Unfortunately, we didn't get to duplicate that this year, but it will be done again. It has to be. It was pretty epic. Some of you guys may have saw some suspicious images last year that got posted, but yeah, it was very cool. So just kind of give a rundown about my trip going out there, and then we'll kind of run through the day itself. They brought us out on Friday. Great trip. It was actually pretty smooth. For me, I'm not a plane guy. I don't do much traveling. I learned my lessons on trips like these. Funny, we connected in Rhode Island this time. Last time they took me through DC. Connected in Rhode Island time, and right before the planes load, they announced that it is an entirely packed plane. That the packed luggage is about at capacity. Suspect that they're not going to have enough room for carry-on luggage and all this chaos. So they suggested right then and there that if you have more than one bag to go beneath your feet, that you should upgrade your boarding time. And they could have been pumping me for money. I took the bait. Well, I shot myself in the foot almost. I pay the extra money so I can board first, or in the first group, and I jump in. Like I say, I don't fly often, so I jumped into that first seat, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be first off the plane. Well, what I didn't realize was that first seat, you can't have a bag underneath your feet because there's no seats in front of you. So the plane's like half full before I realize this and have to, oh crap, and jump back and get another seat. So almost screwed myself there. But we get through flawlessly, get up to Boston. I let them pick me up and stuff this year. Some of you heard last year I rented a car.
That's right.
Last year, some of you heard I rented a car, and needless to say, a Kansas boy driving in Boston, huge mistake. I'm not going to get into that whole fiasco. Go back and view the episode from last year. I was stressed. And RJ from Whence Came You still makes fun of me because the first time I met him was leaving that parking garage, and he thought I just had a stroke. I looked so stressed out. But yeah, go back, view that story. You might have noticed the cut in this. It was because Rob fell over laughing when I made that comment and ended the call there. So, yeah, If you're not from Boston, don't drive in Boston. Yeah.
Especially if you're from the Midwest, it is not a grid system.
Yeah, man. Man. Yeah. That's all I got
When we
to say
first moved
about
out
it.
here, when we first moved out here, my wife was like, "What the heck is this? You got a road that says it's going north and south, and it's not going north and south."
It's crazy. It's crazy. And the multi-layered intersections, it's creative. Yeah, I give you props for that. But anyways, they picked us up this year. One of the first things we did, kind of got checked in and everything. And one of the brothers that belongs to Ezekiel Bates has recently opened his own brewery. It's there not too far from the lodge, but it was pretty cool. A tiny little place, but man, it really cool atmosphere and everything. The place was packed. I mean, filled to the brim with people. They love this place. And he had some interesting custom-made drafts and stuff going on. I think one of them was called the Third Rough In. But everybody was loving it. It was a good time. They had a food truck out there with another brother from the lodge who runs his food truck. Great food. But yeah, hung out there the whole first night, and then wake up the next morning, and Masonic Con was on. I was one of the speakers. I was actually tied to pretty much every one of the interviews. I really thought I'd get some time to go around, chat with everybody, and check out the vendors. I ran in between a couple of the speeches, but dude, I thought everyone knocked it out of the park this year. I was really tied to the speakers. Do you have any favorites?
Actually, you know what? With all due respect,
Yeah.
John Ruark's discussion on statistics, that was incredible. That and the panel at the end was very cool. But I mean, the speech that John did with the stats and everything that he did, and he collected on the survey. Man, I don't even think I got off my seat, and I was texting that to my district deputy. I'm like, you got to use this. We all have to be watching this information. I mean, it's just such a valuable data, and it's just, if you care about the craft and you think about how it's going to grow and how it's going to survive, you got to be thinking about these numbers and the feedback that he's getting, you know?
Well, I think the amazing part of it is it's something we've talked about for years. I mean, years before I became a Mason. Like, this isn't a new topic, but it's one of those topics that are just so easily grazed over. Yeah, we're in trouble. And then, just kind of pushed on to the next.
Yeah.
But with these stats that John brings into play, you can't look away. I mean, it is right there. It's in front of you. It's unavoidable. And it really it takes the conversation to the next level, because it's no longer just speculation. It's evidence proven. And it kind of forces you to face it.
Yeah. You've got the data there to tell you the story, right? And the data tells you part of it. You do have to infer some, but you've got data. And just like, when we were kids, right, it's always, well, it'll never happen to me. End up doing all sorts of stupid stuff because nothing will ever happen to me. Speaking from my experience, the lodge that my great-grandfather was on the charter for is gone. They merged with another lodge, and we have lodges verging in our district today. And I would hate to see that happen to our lodge, to have to merge into another. And as we shrink, it's inevitable.
Yeah, no, it is, and that ties right into actually what I was speaking about this year at Masonic Con. They brought me up to give on the topic of preserving Masonic history and how it is fading away. And, unfortunately, we are lodge after lodge. We're seeing so many of these lodges disappear. And it doesn't take long. Once those doors are closed, it's slowly forgotten about. There's so many stories like that where just the oldest past masters in your lodge may know about these lodges from long ago, but once they're gone, you may glance by it in a history book one day, but it's no more. So it's a sad truth, but why that history is still available, we've got to save as much of it as we can. And these numbers that Brother Ruark's bringing to the table is just total evidence of that. I mean, it's an unavoidable fate. So something's got to be done. We can't just talk about it anymore. So
and with his data, right? I mean, certainly there's a there's a group of Masons that are going to be participating in that survey, right? Whether they hear about it on TMR or Historical Light, Whence Came You, whatever it is, they'll hear about that survey because they're out looking for education.
Yeah.
Right. So the vast majority of data coming back from that was, well, we want more education. There's not enough education in the lodge. There's a strong fraternal and family aspect there as well that I think can't be glossed over. Right. I mean, we've got to be able to take care of our brothers. The interviews that you did, like the video interviews with some of the older brothers, that's awesome. The amount of time and stuff that you spent on that is just incredible. And it's just that's history. That's our stories.
Yeah, no, totally. And I mentioned for those of you that have heard me give that presentation, I mentioned in there the video aspect of it. I pondered on it, but the true idea that came from Brother Mitch Denning, who actually did a video documentary on his lodge. We did an episode on that before. Go back and check that out, everybody. It's so simple to do. And a lot of it can be done just simply with your cell phone these days. I mean, the video quality, the audio quality is a lot better than you think it is. And I mean, even if we're not shooting, for cinema, it's there. I mean, you can get really good quality just by some editing on your mobile device. And there's no better way to save history. One of the key points I've pushed so hard on that for so long is up until this date, the battle's been entirely different as to the fact of we've been trying to build libraries. We've been, trying to, there's a book, let's get them together. They're safe. Well, only for so long, because now those books themselves are disappearing. And there's more history than just those books. The best conversations, the best times I've ever had in Masonry is when I get stuck after lodge and I'm sitting there in the Tyler's area and I just end up chatting with an old guy. Either, someone from my lodge or someone visiting. We, starts out totally unmasonic, just some weird topic, but, maybe an hour in, you get in on a story about the lodge from 60 years ago that you've never heard before. And it's those stories that just bring the history to life. I've shared with some brothers before, the oldest past master in my lodge, at least active, is a brother named Doc. And I had him, for the history book I'm writing for our lodge, I had him write kind of a paragraph of, hey, what do you remember about lodge? Well, what were your high times? What brought you in? All this good stuff. And he did it. And he called me up one night because he wanted to kind of run it by me. And he started going through, and I'm hearing all these names I've been researching from the past masters and the history of our lodge. And it was amazing because he brought those names to life. He's putting personalities to them. He's commenting on things they would say and how they would say it, and actions they did, and it was a whole nother fourth dimension to what all the research I had done. And you'd be amazed how many of those conversations you can have. I beg all of you, just throw your cell phone out sometime, sit a guy in front of him, and just have a chat with him. And if he's not comfortable with the camera, get him on audio. Just have those conversations, because you can't, once they're gone, you can't have them again. You can't duplicate those, you can't make them up. It's a necessity.
We have a 70-year Mason this year. He's been a Mason for 70 years, and your talk actually inspired me. I'm starting to put the questions together, and I want to go have a video chat with him and just get it down.
Yeah.
So that his memories and his experience in the lodge. I mean, 70 years ago, right? And he's lucid. He's still with it. It's amazing to me. And it seems like just a shame if you don't capture that information.
Yeah. No, it is. I think that's kind of the rawest point you can get in your research, is just to sit down and have that chat. And I'm not gonna leave too much information or hints on this right here, but I just had a conversation today, hopefully for an upcoming interview here. I've been placed in touch with a 103-year-old, still active Mason.
Nice.
And I'm not going to give any more away than just that, but hopefully that interview will be coming up very soon. This guy still goes to lodge at least once every month and a half to 2 months, health permitting. Obviously, at 103, he has some up and down days, but he's still active, and it's amazing. So I can't wait. He's not a guy from my jurisdiction, but that's a chat that has to be had. And
I think I know who you're talking about.
Do you? Do you?
I think so.
It was pretty amazing. Yeah, opportunity came up. I reached out and got an immediate response, and so we're trying to get that in the works. But it'll be a cool chat. I mean, 103 years old. I can't imagine. I don't know how long exactly he's been in the fraternity, but dude's seen some things, you know?
That's the depression, right? I mean, that's
Right.
insane.
Yeah, so that'll be a hell of a chat there. So besides the speeches during the day, what were some other high points for you from Masonic Con 2018?
So it was tough. I mean, mentally, I was in a really tough part that day, and a couple days leading up, and then, but MasonicCon itself was just such a great lift,
Yeah.
right? Mentally, and I ended up crashing the festive board
You did.
that night. So I didn't get to partake in the tours on Friday or Sunday, but I did crash the festive board. Thank you, Brother Simmons, and that was a blast. Brian, just the way he worked that room and the table and got people involved and talking was just, it was fantastic.
He's very natural at that. He really is.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, right? No, that was a cool festive board though. Yeah. So we get all through the day, and that was a necessity for me. I was the last speaker to go on before the panel discussion, and I'd said, I'd sat up there all day long. I actually skipped lunch. I'm not a big fan of eating before I speak, but I was so like caught up in all the rest of the speeches, and then I tried to sneak down a few times in between to hit up the vendors and say hi to a few people real quick. But I hadn't eaten lunch all day, and I'm sitting up there nervous about my speech. And then right before mine, I'm like dead tired. I mean, I've been up there since like early in the morning, haven't gone up yet. I'm like sitting there like starting to nod off, starting to get a headache. I'm like, oh, well, this ain't going to go well. But yeah, get through mine. And then that festive board was just like reviving for me. Great food, great laughs. I mean, I wish I had that kind of space. That lodge is impressive, man. I was telling everyone there, it's like my lodge gardener, the Masons built the whole building, but they sold it right after they built it, and we only own the top floor of it. The bottom floor is a coffee house and some other commercial space, but the entire top floor could probably fit inside of that hall where they did the festive board. So
Yeah.
we don't get this space like they have, but it was impressive. It was awesome. Great food. Like you said, Brother Simmons worked that floor like none other. It was outstanding. And Brother Jason Richards from TMR got his phone stolen during the middle of the meal, and everyone around the table partook in taking some horrid selfies, which ended up with some great pictures. One of which I think is of you, and it got another brother in trouble.
I don't think there's any proof of that.
No, well. But it was hilarious nonetheless, actually, to the point that Jason didn't know where the heck his phone was. He got up and stormed off thinking he had like lost it somewhere, and it was like working its way around the end. I didn't know about it until it hit me, and I was like, oh crap. But all in good fun, kind of added to the laughs of the day. And then we kind of hung out there for a while. I think it was past midnight before me and the other guys headed back to the hotel. But yeah, I was stoked to see you there. I know we'd chatted just before and said bye and all, and you were out. Then I'm sitting there eating. I look over and I see you across the way. So shot you that little text I see you.
I ran out for some contraband Chinese food.
Right on. So you didn't get to come hang with us the following day there. What did you have going on? Why didn't you make the tours, man?
So one, didn't really know the details about them. And two, what was that day? I'm sure we were just swamped. We've been doing an addition up at the house, and I'm involved in scouts, and there's lodge, so there's there's never shortage of activities.
Yeah, what was that thing you were talking about? 24-inch something. I don't know
Yeah,
what that thing is. I know it's duct taped together a few times. At least mine is.
That was actually, I think that was my first paper that I wrote for Midnight Freemasons.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it was cool because, I mean, it was inspired because I was traveling and being master, right? And just getting frustrated because I was trying to get more people to support different activities, right? And show up and offering a wide variety of activities, just so try to placate to people, various people's interests. And my wife was just like, well, maybe they're busy being Masons in other ways, right? Maybe they're leading a church group or a scout group or some other youth organization, or we have a brother that volunteers at the hospital, right, as kind of like a receptionist, help people get around.
Yeah.
There's so many, like my dad. I never saw my dad go to lodge until I was initiated. When I was initiated, he came up from Pennsylvania for all three of my degrees and actually raised me. But my entire life until then, I never saw him go to lodge. But even though he didn't show up, he kept his dues. And I'm sure that like daily he would look at, his setting wall from when he was master, or his ring, or his father's ring, which I'm now wearing. And that guided him. That made him a better dad, in my opinion. So it's just an important thing to remember that just because they're not at lodge, just because they're not at a lodge event, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not doing something to improve themselves in Masonry.
Well put.
Right.
Well put. No, that's very true. That's actually an interesting way to look at it, because I don't think a lot of guys take that into consideration when you don't see them at lodge. But we're while we're in lodge, we're learning those tools so we can practically apply them to life. And some guys are doing that, and you gotta give them credit where credit's due.
Yeah.
That's a great point, man.
Just kind of wish they would come back and teach me how to do it.
Right? We need to know. Yeah, no, totally though. So last day there was an interesting one for me. Day was amazing, but it was also my travel back home. And some of you guys have watched the TMR footage on this, where they kind of poked at me a little bit. I was I'm always getting into something, man. So day was awesome. We did a tour of Boston. Got to go through the Grand Lodge again. Still, second year in a row, I haven't got to see this cellar that Brother Hunt has alluded to. He took us on a private tour last year and totally nerding out on the history and get looking at all these crazy things. And not until I get back home and he's he does an interview for the show, he's telling me about this amazing cellar they've got with all these old documents. And I'm like, do what? Oh, I didn't show you the cellar? So I was banking I'd get to see it this year, but unfortunately, Walter Hunt wasn't up there for our tour this year, so a lot of doors were locked. But one of these days, I will get into that cellar, and I'm sure by then it's going to be empty and very unimpressive. So just my luck and things. But no, we got to do a tour again of the Grand Lodge, which that place never gets old, man. It was interesting though, because last year when we visited, they were just getting ready to do the renovation to put the restaurant space down on the ground floor and take out the murals on the wall. So it was kind of hard hitting, because last time I was there, I was taking pictures of those murals, and I get there this time and it's just window space, and it was like, oh, that's hard to see, but
Yeah.
life goes on. It's still an amazing building, and it's decent size from the outside, but you go in there and it is really fooling. I mean, that place is massive. You would never guess it's that big. I mean,
It is. And, I mean, it's
size halls. It's insane.
And it's prime real estate, right downtown Boston, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's right across from Boston Common and right near the theater district. I mean, it's an amazing location.
Yeah, it's in the middle of everything. It is.
But you got to see Prince Hall's tomb, Prince Hall's grave, right?
Yeah, so we left there and we did kind of a walking tour, which I'm going to put him on the spot right now. Brother Simmons is a walker. That guy does not stop. He is on a mission. At one point, we were going up a hill, I mean, straight up, and I'm a fat dude. I'm like huffing and puffing, and he's just booking along. And at one point, he just kind of stops and turns around and goes, "This really sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, you're doing fine, though. Keep going." But no, we get down the street. First cemetery we took a look at, we got to see the graves of Brother Samuel Adams. I think Benjamin Franklin's parents had a big monument. And the graves from those time period, just impressive, man. I can't believe they're still around. I mean, you see some of them are like coming in like slices and falling apart from the old stone. But yeah, the designs on them and everything, it's just, you don't see anything like that. It's so cool to see them, still preserved and people actually caring enough to like go in and spend time with them. Although there was a couple I felt really bad for, and I'll edit in some pictures here. There's one kind of right when you come in. I think it's right over actually next to the Sam Adams grave. His tombstone's right there, and because there's no space, the sidewalk goes right over. So I mean, everyone's just basically trampling over this poor dude. But it's everything in Boston, even the tombs, prime real estate. I mean, you see a lot of them up there where the headstones are actually part of the surrounding buildings, and it was intense. But we went from the first cemetery to the Green Dragon. Is that right? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Green Dragon Tavern. That was impressive, very very impressive. Although the wait staff didn't know how to split a bill, so we got to sit there and crunch math ourselves.
It's
Whatever.
Boston.
Yeah, right. So yeah, when you got 17 people at a table, it's all figure it out. Thanks. We all have cards. Yeah. But
you know the history of the Green Dragon, right?
Not as much as I should. We got a cool little debriefing there, but you want to give us a rundown?
So I'm sure I'm going to botch this, but I mean, like many lodges back in the time, 1700s, the lodges were on the second floor of a pub, right? Meeting house.
Yeah.
And there was a lodge that met on the second floor of the Green Dragon. Now, I don't believe it's the same. I think the bar kind of like went up, the pub went away and the bar came back at some point in time. But there was a lodge that was above the Green Dragon, and I believe like Sam Adams, and I hope Walter's not listening to this because he'll kill me. A lot of other prominent Masons were members of that lodge. These similar prominent Masons were also rumored to be part of the Boston Tea Party.
Ah, yes.
So there's all sorts of rumors and discussions about whether or not Masons were involved with the Boston Tea Party, whether they orchestrated it, who knows?
Right.
But there were members of that lodge that met above the Green Dragon that were involved in the Boston Tea Party.
Now, and Brother Mike was telling me, and I may have misheard him, so I'm not going to fully quote him on this, but he was telling me that he thought there was a print shop up on the top floor at one point too, that one of the important documents, I can't remember which one of the important U.S. documents was possibly printed in. So
that I don't know.
Just sound like some amazing I mean, that was a cool thing though. It's like everywhere you go, you're in history. It's unavoidable. I mean,
well, dude, the U.S.'s Constitution. I don't know if you got to see that. I mean, it's not Masonic in nature. Although I think Major General Henry Knox Lodge, I think they do an event on the U.S.'s Constitution. I mean, it's still around, and on 4th of July, they bring it out of its berth, off the dock. They bring it up into Boston Harbor and spin it around. It's got fire boats all around it, spraying water, and it's a special thing for 4th of July. And you see this old ship from the Revolutionary War, right in Boston Harbor. It's awesome. And meanwhile, you've got a parade going right past the old State House where the Boston Massacre was, with guys in black powder rifles and all dressed up, and it's just
no doubt.
Man, it takes you back.
What time of year do they do that? The celebration?
4th of July.
During 4th of July? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to have to come up there. I mean, how cool is that? You don't see that every day.
Oh, that's very cool.
That'd be so neat to take part in. But yeah, we got to have lunch there at the Green Dragon. Walked a little farther, saw a couple more cemeteries on the way, and I mean, each one of them we're just gawking at, like, just how cool. But yeah, we get down the way and we get to go into the cemetery where Prince Hall's memorial is at. That was neat. I've seen this thing online so many times, but I never thought I would be able to like stand next to it. And when we're having lunch at the tavern there, it was kind of crunching time. My plane actually left. I mean, wheels up at 5:30, and it was like pushing 3 or so when we were leaving the tavern. So, everyone's kind of looking at me and they're like, well, we're only like 8 minutes away from the airport. We'll be fine. Okay. So we take off walking. We get to go see Prince Hall, which it was amazing. I mean, for those of you that have seen, it's a huge memorial there. I think the biggest one in that particular cemetery. But then right behind it is the smaller little the headstone, and it's so cool. Just to sit there and be with your brother for a minute. Just not say anything, just kind of be with them. It was a surreal experience. I didn't know where at in town that was, or what kind of possibility that would be, but yeah. So glad we had an opportunity to actually go see that in person. That's something I'm never going to forget. The interesting part was actually right after that. So we left there right across from the cemetery where Prince Hall's at. We got to see I think it's the thinnest house in America or something. Oh. I don't know why anybody paid money for that thing. And no parking space, I hear.
It's Boston.
It's Boston. I'm like, I heard it went for over $1 million. I'm like, if I'm paying $1 million for a slice, give me a slice of a parking space. But we get on down the hill, and right at the bottom of the hill is this old church with this huge steeple. And they said it was where Paul Revere went up and did the signal on the top. And I'm standing there on the corner and just being a stupid tourist, just looking up at this thing, just lost in a daydream, kind of imagining this town in that time period. And I look down, and I'm all alone. Everyone was gone. And to make things better, being the history guy, geeking out on all this stuff, I've been taking so many pictures, my phone was dead. So I'm standing in the middle of Boston. It's pushing 3:45, close to 4 o'clock at this point. Plane leaves at 5:30. I don't know where I'm at. No phone. No group. So naturally, being a Midwestern tourist, I found a gift shop and I bought some stuff for the kids. And and I worked my way back up the hill, and I looked everywhere. I couldn't find anybody. I thought I was totally screwed. I kind of gave up at that point. Just kind of accepted the defeat that I wasn't making my plane. But up the hill towards the top, ran into another brother up there, and he had fallen behind with a couple guys from earlier. And I was like, oh, sweet, found you. And first thing he asked me is, hey, is your phone working? No, my phone's dead. Oh, crap, my phone's dead too. So, of course, they wanted to see Prince Hall, and I'm like, duh, why not? I'm stuck here in Boston. Let's go see him. So we're back there checking out Prince Hall's grave a second time, and here comes Brian up the hill yelling, Kansas, where'd you go? So, yeah, luckily we kind of high-hoofed it as quick as we could from that point back to the car, which was a heck of a little jaunt. And then by the time we got on the highway and over to the airport, I think they dropped me off at 5:08. I'm thinking I still got this. I'm running in the place with confidence. And I realize this is not the Kansas City airport. I get in there and I don't know where the heck I'm at, don't know where I need to go. I actually first ran off in the wrong direction and found out actually where I needed to go was straight in from the front door. But nevertheless, get there. Security is, backed up, and they don't play around going through Boston. It was, shoes off, belts off, everything. They let me slide with my belt in KC, but I get through and it's like, I know I'm pushing time. So I take off running with my shoes half on, my belt, my hoodie in hand, and I'm just kind of, speed walking. That place is huge, man. Huge. And I'm just following signs. I'm trying to find Terminal A and find my gate and everything. And it's like, it's that way. And there's a hall just, it disappears in the distance. And I get about halfway down this hall, speed walking, and they come on over the intercom, and I hear flight number whatever to Kansas City is now fully boarded. And I just stopped. I stopped walking. I was like, crap. And then they followed it by, we're waiting for one more passenger, Mr. Alex Powers.
Yeah.
Mr. Powers, we want to go to Kansas City. How about you? I suggest you get to your terminal now. Yeah, so I picked up everything, and I fat guy ran as fast as I could, and everyone kind of turned around, started laughing at me. Everyone realized I was the guy getting yelled at. Ran all the way through, made it to my gate, checked in with my phone, and that was the last time I saw my phone. Get in the flight. I've got two big guys on the side of me. I'm sweating. I know I stunk the whole flight. I'm just like, whatever. My side's hurting from running. It was a miserable 3-hour and 40-minute flight. But, we're backing out, and I'm like, okay, I'm finally, getting settled in. And I'm like, where's my phone? So I freaked out the entire flight. I tried to hop up once we got in the air and look through my suitcase thinking I'd shove my hoodie in there. Maybe it's in there. No. So freaking out the whole time thinking I must have dropped it in the tube connecting to the plane. And finally get off in KC, get out, and I'd rip everything open and no phone. And I'm just like, oh, crap. Now I don't know how to call my wife to tell her where I am. It was one thing after another, but the flight attendant came out with a phone in her hand. I was like, oh, thank you. So all's well that ends well. It was an amazing trip. I wouldn't have had it any other way. Me barely making my flight gave me a heck of a story, but it also really milked down to the last minute, getting every bit of experience that I could from that trip. And Brian and all the rest of the guys that were responsible for, putting on Masonic Con this year, that was their sole mission. These guys gave up their weekend, and I'm sure much more than that. They've been working on this for some time. But just, put it into everyone attending and everyone, all the speakers and stuff that they had come in, just to make sure that it went over amazing for us, and we got every last little bit of value out of it that we could. And that meant the world to me. It made my entire trip. And I'm looking forward to next year because of that.
When you look at it, and what did he say that at the festival board? They have 135 brothers. I think he said about 135. And 45 helped out with Masonic Con. Yeah. 45. It's like 30% of the membership. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's something to work towards, right? That's a goal to work towards.
Right. It's impressive. It really is. I don't know many other lodges that could pull it off, and they do, and with grace. I'm sure they're like, yeah, BS. all the sweat and tears they put into it, but from an outwardly perspective, it's just jaw dropping. Like, holy crap, how did you guys do this? It's amazing. Yeah. And, I told them so many times, thank you, but I wanted to let them know, like, guys, realize what you're doing, because they're noticing it, not just in your lodge, in your state, not just in your state, they're noticing it back in Kansas. They're noticing it all over the place. You guys are really setting that precedent, and I'm going back. That's like I said, that's kind of that event that I look towards. A huge point I want to get out too is, when I came back and everyone's asking me kind of a way to describe it, and I'm like, the first thing that came to my mind was I can only think of a couple people that I shook hands with there. It was 90% hugs. From the moment that I landed and they came and met me at the airplane, it wasn't a hug, or it wasn't a handshake, it was a hug. It was bring it in, brother. And it was that way the whole time. It was like a big family reunion, and it was amazing. It really was. It was just that connection that you don't find a whole lot of times. So
that's the fraternal aspect, right? That's the brotherly love that, it doesn't take a lot of activities. It doesn't take a lot of money. It's a hug or a phone call or just, shaking a guy's hand and just, hey man, how you doing?
Yeah.
right? And that just that alone can mean so much to somebody.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So for me, I would say it was a win. Masonic Con 2018 was a definite hit. I enjoyed everyone I got to get to see again. Like I said, it was a huge family reunion, a lot of hugs, great speakers, great vendors, great food, great time. I enjoyed it thoroughly. How about you, man? Any complaints?
Absolutely not. I find myself incredibly fortunate to be living 40 minutes away from
Right.
Ezekiel Bates,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's, and again, that is a model that, we should all be looking towards of, how do we build our brotherhood? How do we build our lodge
Right.
to be that kind of a family?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I told my wife last year, and I told her again this year. I come back and I'm like, I could so easily live there, and she's like, Nope, no way. It snows way too much. I'm like, no, we can get around that. It's all good.
Trust me, bringing a girl from the Midwest to the Northeast, it's a challenge, man.
Well, yeah, you don't tell her until after you're there. Band-aid
Don't
effect.
do that.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great to get to see you in person again, brother. Can't wait to next year. Hoping, I know I said hopefully this year, but one of these days we've got to make it up there and get to spend an extra couple days and hang out and stuff and get to do some more exploring. Hopefully make it up there around 4th of July. That would be epic to be able to see that festivity you're talking about. I mean,
It's very cool. And if you come out and spend a couple days, we'll go sailing down in Narragansett
hey,
Bay.
let's do it. Let's do it. Making plans, man. Well, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the event. Thank you for everyone that took the time to put that event together. I know it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to come together, but it did so beautifully and much appreciated. I mean, hands down, it was a great event. I know when I was sitting there watching the other speakers, I had a past Grand Master of Kansas who's currently working with me trying to get some live streams and stuff going down here. I'm just getting message after message. The live stream's awesome. How are they doing this? What equipment are they using? And I went over and I snapped a picture because one of their guys there works for a TV station. He's got all this know-how. I went over there and snapped a picture and I just get a text back, "Holy crap, ... It was awesome. I mean, they pull out all the stops and just, give it all they've got, but it's a heck of a production, man. But
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you, brother. Any final thoughts you have, and then we'll wrap up.
I don't think I have any final thoughts. We are trying to do our own live stream. So Montgomery Lodge
Sweet.
in Milford, this will be our second year doing it. We're doing an empty chair degree on Memorial Day. So we're marching in the Memorial Day parade in Milford, and then kind of an open house where we open it up to the public, invite friends, family, obviously, and do a public performance of the empty chair degree. And we're going to try to live stream it this year, hoping that builds and has some sort of positive impact on our family and on our Masonic family and our community. And kind of feel it's special for us just because Major General Richard Montgomery, whom we're named for, I think he was like one of Washington's right-hand man, and he was killed in battle up in Canada. So yeah, it's kind of a important thing. I think it's an important thing for us.
Well, I wish you the utmost success with that event, brother. That sounds amazing. I commend you guys for doing that. And being historical, dude, let me know when you get that off the ground. We'll share that on the Historical Light page so everyone can jump in and see that. I'll definitely
That'd be
be
excellent.
watching.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, not at all, brother. Not at all. Well, thank you, brother, so much for coming on today and kind of sharing this dual perspective and your personal Masonic history with us as well. But I wanted to have you come on, spend some time on. It's good to see you again, but get your perspective for the event as well. So it's not just me blabbering on here, and no one trusts my word. So we've got to bring someone on that's trustworthy. So.
Oh, I don't think I'm the right choice for that one.
Well, we'll see how the views do. We might have to delete this. We never know. But in all
I
seriousness,
did want to share a couple things,
Right? Yeah.
if I could.
Yeah, go for it.
So I have a copy of Modern Masonry by Joseph Fort Newton. Trademark copyright 1924. I don't know if you
Oh,
could see
dude.
that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure this is my grandfather's, great grandfather's. And I have from my father and my grandfather, I have a pair of setting malls.
Wow.
So this one's for my dad when he was master, and this one was my grandfather. And Robert Maitland and Maitland Garrick Jackson. And every time I sat in the East, those setting malls were with me.
Yes.
And it was just kind of a way that I can have my family with me, since my dad died before I made it to the East. So it's some way for me to connect.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
You know?
Brother, I commend you on that. That right there. I was just going to ask you. I hope you have used that. I mean, there is no better way to just kind of solidify that unspoken bond, that connection, to be able to use something like that. I mean, obviously, as beautiful as those are, it meant the world to them, and to be able to bring that into your journey, dude, that's what this is all about. Hands down, that is awesome.
I wear my dad's past master's apron now. I got a special dispensation from Grand Lodge because it doesn't fit the right size and description for a past master's apron, but I'm now permitted, to wear it, and every day I put that on, and I wear my ring, and that connection's always there.
That is awesome, brother. That is awesome. I got a little bit of a connection there when I was actually installed into the East. I've shared before, but I actually have my great-grandfather's Master Mason apron.
Yeah.
And from the day I got it, it was folded up in an envelope, and I had to kind of flatten it out as good as I could. But it's been in a frame ever since I got it, so nothing would happen to it. And I was kind of nervous. It had been so long since I put it in that frame, of thinking how brittle it was. But when I was installed into the East, I actually wore my great-grandfather's apron. So I know that connection, that feeling you're talking about. I wish I could wear it every time. I'm with this particular apron, I'm nervous to tear it up. But, dude, yeah, no words. No words.
Yeah.
It's a pretty amazing experience. So I'm so glad that you're able to have that to take into history, man. That's amazing. Well, brother, on that note, again, I want to thank you so much for everything you're doing, keeping your family's Masonic history alive, and for coming on the show today, sharing your points of view, and just spending some time with me, brother. It's always a pleasure. But thanks so much for coming on the show, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, Alex. You take care.
All right, take care, brother. We'll see you soon.
You too, brother.
All right, well, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. If you guys have not had the chance yet, make sure you get to Masonic Con. Put it on your bucket list. I've been up there 2 years in a row now. I look forward to it every year. It's been a whole year, and now I'm bummed out it's over. So put it on your bucket list. Get up there. The guys up at Ezekiel Bates Lodge, I don't think anyone can top them. They know what they're doing. It's kind of been a trial and error for them, and they have, to my opinion, perfected it. It's an amazing experience. So do yourself a favor, get up there and enjoy Masonic Con. And until next time, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Jump over to our group on Facebook, which is the Historical Light Masonic Research Group on Facebook. If you're not a member there, make sure you join so you can get on the great conversations. And we'll see you there until next time when we continue our quest for historical light. Have a great day.